Um, I don't know if you guys caught my name, but my name is Bonnie Alexander Pearson, most widely known as Peanut Alex. I came to Shelbyville with the Barnes and Burns Circus, late 1850s, early 1860s. I sold peanuts on the corner, on the southeast corner of the square, on the corner of Washington Street, outside the Birk Haslett House, and I actually lived in the apartments above them. They think the date I was born is in 1851, and they think this because in the Bible they found was that date after I was dead, so they think that's the date I was born. I wasn't a very talkative man of my past. I just like to talk to people about nice little conversations about times and weathers on the days that they came to me and bought my peanuts for about a nickel each.
All right. Thank you. That's awesome.
Y'all have a nice day.
You
That's
That big empty lot.
and that was the which brand was that?
Chamber Stove.
The real famous one that's people
It
are.
was Chambers Stove and Chambers Aircraft Company.
Oh yeah, okay.
We had concurrent businesses back then. He had the stoves, and I and my father had the furniture stores. Furniture
Right.
business.
Okay. Was it the family name Brand Furniture?
Yes, our family and several other families had maintained factories
Yeah.
up and through pretty much until the Great Depression hit.
Yeah.
But there were several family factories in the town.
Right.
We specialize in bedroom suits.
Right. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I just moved here. I found that they made any kind of furniture you can imagine in Shelbyville. One
We
time.
were called the Grand Rapids of the Midwest.
Huh.
I guess the same era, Grand Rapids was a huge furniture consortium too
Yeah.
during its era.
Huh. Interesting.
Until dirty politics and infighting, mostly the Depression wiped them out.
Ah, right. Yeah. More violent.
Politics and newspapers were rather brutal back then.
Yeah. What was going on at the newspaper?
I ran the Democrat, which was a Democrat newspaper.
Yeah.
Which is called the News now.
Yep.
I had an opponent in the newspaper business up to about 1910, and he ran something called the Republican.
Yeah.
And it was just basically a battle to see who could control the politics and the heart and soul of the town.
Right.
I was on one side and he was on the other side.
Yeah. It stayed mainly a Democrat town, didn't it?
Yes.
Well, you wouldn't know that.
Well, I got connections.
Since your day.
I got connections. The Democrats got beat real bad in 1904 and 1906. And it was a Republican town up until about 1926, 1928. Before the Democrat Party could make any headway and regain some seats.
Yeah. How did Eisenhower do here?
He won. No, he lost. He lost, actually.
Oh, I'll be darned. They didn't like Ike.
Fun of this thing. I'm back. I just had to meet some giggle people over there. So they don't. What school did you go to?
Shelbyville High School.
You're welcome. So, so I was saying earlier, Shelbyville is around because of my money. So I was telling these young folks in this apparatus here that in 1834 opened a store called Hamilton Store. We sold everything, like a dry goods store. You could buy a stove for about $8. How much does it cost now? About $8 1/4. I mean, there's inflation.
100.
I understand that. But about then, in the late 1850s, my brother and I, we got this crazy idea. We said, look, other people might want to start a business, but they don't have the money to do that. So what if we started a bank? And back then it wasn't government, it was just us. But we had this crazy idea that if I give you $1, I charge you $1.50 to give me my dollar back. And everybody fell for it. Oh my gosh, we made hand over fist. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the government didn't shut us down. I mean, it's just amazing. We just called it interest. Because that was our interest. Oh man. Oh man. My brother and I, we didn't think anybody would fall for it. But that's how Shelbyville got started, and a lot of places are around thanks to us. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So where was your store?
Northwest corner of the square. Is the square still there?
It's a circle.
It's a circle now.
What do you
Instead
got
of a
against
square.
square edges?
Yeah.
Around them all.
Same difference.
Too hard to drive around.
That is, y'all don't have horses anymore?
No.
What's wrong with horses?
Different kind. They're too slow.
Yeah, horsepower.
Horsepower.
How fast do you need to go?
I need to go real fast.
You remind me of my second wife,
And what was her name?
Emma.
Emma. Is
Is she here?
There's Elizabeth.
Oh, she's right there.
And my first wife, Elizabeth, passed away when I was 71. But as you can see, I'm a good-looking 71-year-old, so I remarried.
How old was Emma?
She's a little younger.
Little younger? Was she not a teenager? She wasn't a teenager, was she?
Heavens no.
She's in her 20s.
She was my maid, but I promise you, nothing happened before Elizabeth, God rest her soul, passed away. I promise you, I played it by the book.
Mabel. I was married to George all of maybe a couple of years, and then Mabel was born, and then she passed away 3 months after she was born, and he died shortly after her. So then I married John Moore. He had 3 strapping sons by his previous marriage. And George and I were kind of ill-fitted. He was 28 and I was 15. And my baby was born 6 months after we were married, so through the math, it was not quite the marriage made in heaven. But he's buried over here, I believe, what they say, lot 11, and then John and my 2 boys by my stepsons are buried there. And Russell came and lived with me at the home until I got to where I couldn't handle it anymore, and then we moved away from the home. And the children followed me, though. All my children followed me. 25 years of being matriarch of children's home. A long time.
That's funny. They tore it down and it's just.
Sitting over here under a tree. My parents were Nancy and John Young, and they were one of the first settlers that came here to Shelby County. And they had a little place over by the fairgrounds, where the actual opening of the fairgrounds are. And on the east side, there are 2 buildings that my dad actually helped build. And once they came here and I was born, that made me Shelby County's oldest pioneer. Isn't that wonderful? And I have a little book up there that's very nice, and you can't read what it says anymore.
And this is a family monument. And it was made possible through the Woodsmen of the World. And the Woodsmen of the World is an organization that you can become a member of, but it's not sacred like something that you have to do a special ceremony to become a member of. You invest in their company. They have their banking investment company, and they're also, they sell life insurance. They still exist today. Last year their profits topped over $1.8 billion. When they put these tombstones up, there was a proviso in the, when you bought the insurance, that you got the monument for free. But after the mid-1890s, you had to pay $100 for it. By the 1920s, they completely had done away with it because it wasn't cost effective. But as a family member died, they would chip away at the branches and they would cut wood. They would cut wood like this for the family members. She buried 2 of her children and her husband. She she had other children. I'm not sure where they are, but these kids have their wood cut for them here. You can get your own symbols put on it, anything you wanted. It looks here like he was a Freemason and a member of the Odd Fellows. The oak leaves on the side picture strength, and usually the male or the family. The vine represents the female and how she clung to her family. Lucy Dugan was 3 days short of being 77 years old when she died. Her husband died at the age of 59, and he worked for the county as a surveyor.
Thank you.
It's kind of set up so Alex is the first one that starts doing it. You can see where 2 and 3 are, and then you can see where 4, 5, and 6. So you don't have to.
Dr. Luther J. Hord, owner and proprietor of the Hord Cemetery. I went to school in Utah, Texas, and in Indiana and Purdue University. While I was in Texas, I learned that in the military, if a soldier was injured, they would they'd give them morphine as a way of helping cure their ailments. And more often than not, they would become addicted to the morphine. And the military had this process called detoxification, and it would help them get over their sickness. If you were addicted to, say, opium, which was popular at the time, and you went into a hospital, they would turn you away. They would say it's a behavioral issue, it's not medical at all. I was the first doctor in history to say, why not treat all addiction as a medical condition? And I strongly believed in the idea of mineral water, natural springs. I really believe there's a natural spring underneath my home. And I drilled my whole life, never found anything. But years after I died, I found out that because of the limestone in Indiana, there are natural springs just underneath my house. So I was half right.
There's hundreds of natural springs.
Yes, now, but not in my house. I should have relocated. I would have found them.
Yeah.
But yes.
Say my family lives out in Smithland,
Oh.
and supposedly there's a giant underground lake underneath my house.
At the time, though, everyone thought it was crazy. The idea of springs under Indiana was insanity.
Yeah.
But I strongly believed it. And I was like, I was partially right. It wasn't where I thought it was, but they were here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They all died in infancy. I think the oldest was Wannard, who was Jimmy. And that's what Rose is portraying as one of our children, is the youth that died. It was horrible. They don't know what happened to them.
They have immunizations then. There's a lot of babies out here.
Unfortunately. But the other wife, she died when she was 88. So she was actually a widow then. So she lived a little bit longer than John did. So be careful, there's mosquitoes.
Yeah, I know that would be getting me. So are you saying that you were a lot younger than your husband then?
We were about the same age. I was actually born in Ohio.
Oh, you were the first one. You died early.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
And I believe we're all buried together, except for, I'm not sure if the little ones are buried in there. But I know Jimmy is. I don't know if the other little ones are or not.
But the 2 wives and your husband?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, good deal. Let's roll. Come on, guys.
I've got her. She's probably going to go into the mausoleum.
All right.
Rosales! She's going to go in there. Was that little boy buried here? Yes, that's his grave actually. What are you doing? Can you come back?
Lewis Creek, to be more exact. I cut and sold ice for a while, and part owner of the Shelbyville Democrat here in town. Later on, married my wife, Mary True. Had 2 boys, born in this union, of course. Coming on my 2nd term as sheriff. when I was shot and killed in the line of duty. So this town, in that day, October 9th, 1880, was in a political enrage. See, the future president, Benjamin Harrison, was to come in, do some politicking in Shelbyville, and head on back. Well, all day, my deputies and I have been taking care of fights and little arguments here and there. And I was walking across the street of Harrison and Broadway, right in front of the old Hartlebeck Saloon. When old man Hartlebeck came out and he asked me to come in and do some justice in there because it was getting out of control. So I walk in and I see the two men causing of it all, Ed Kennedy and Jeb Kennedy, brothers. Had runs in with them in the past. So I take them outside and I turn them, or we're walking across the street, and the crowd is throwing bricks and rocks at us, yelling, "Shoot him, kill him." I wasn't sure if they're talking to me or if they're talking about them, so I didn't pay no mind. I've been called worse. So I turned the brothers loose about 100 yards east of the saloon. About that time, they're still yelling stuff at me. A man by the name of Albert Robertson comes out of his home, tells the brothers they need to leave, and he's got a wife and kids inside. They don't need to hear all that. So he turns back to go inside, and I'm trying to deal with the brothers, and they're still yelling at me. And Mr. Robertson comes back out and turns around and he said, "You need to take care of it or I will." Well, about that time, Ed Kennedy, he looks at Robertson, he looks at me, looks back at Robertson, and he says, "Oh, you will, huh?" Shoots me right in the chest. I fall back. I see Dr. Henry and Dr. Wilson. I said, "Boys, I'm shot." They take me off down the road to Dr. Fitz's house. They fight with me until 8:38 the next morning. That's when I died. I died a long, antagonizing, painful death. Shortly after Ed shot me, he veered off in an alley, dressed in some of their women's clothing, and hops on a horse and carriage and takes off out of town. For 2 years, he was gone, till his conscience finally caught back up with him. He came in and turned himself into the authorities. My family finally had their peace that they needed to know that he was caught. Now the jury of his trial found that he was in a drunken rage and gave him 2 years with manslaughter. During my funeral, there was a fire that took out here and broke out the sawmill here in town. It was so bad that everybody had to stop what they're doing, stop at my funeral, leave me where I lay, go help with the fire. It was so bad that we had to call on the Indianapolis Fire Department to come down and help us out, because they have the bigger horses and the bigger carriages to hold the water to take care of it all. So them helping us saved a big part of this town. After the fire was put out, I was laid to rest, and years later, my family decided that they wanted to move me to the Forest Hill Cemetery, where my grave is just up the hill there, unmarked. They didn't want my body to be, or my tombstone, or anything to be vandalized anymore than I already have.
They put me here to tell about the Flight 853. Flight 853 was an Allegheny airline that crashed over London Road with a single engine pilot that was piloting from Indianapolis, Piper Cherokee, and his name is Bob Carey from Indianapolis. He has 5 kids. He just decided to fly that day, and the Allegheny airline left 30 minutes later than what they were supposed to, so that's why they think caused the direct impact over London Road. There was 83 people that died that day, 83 people in the crash, so nobody survived. Bob Carey, the one in the Piper airline, was the only one intact in his seat that they could identify. 52 other ones that they identified were just by pieces. There are 32 caskets over that direction in the memorial, and they're all by weighted pieces, just legs and arms of people. But there are 52 that they identified out of 83. So. And it just sprayed the whole entire area of pieces and body parts. KCL, the factory here in town, made all the body bags, and the SOS sanctuary on Washington Street was the morgue at the time, because it was the armory. So that's where everybody went at the time. But it happens September 9th, 1969.
Thank you.
Good.
This is
My
an
name is
interesting one.
Catherine Hoyt. I was born Catherine Merrick in 1847 in Ireland. I was a year old when my parents came over in 1848 while they were fleeing the Great Potato Famine that was occurring in Ireland at the time. We first landed in Vermont, and like many Irish immigrants, my father found work as a railroad worker, and by 1860 we found ourselves here in Shelbyville. A year later, at age 13, I was married to Martin Hoyt, and by age 19 I was widowed with 3 children. He was a boozer, he was a gambler, he was a troublemaker. He ended up getting shot in a saloon brawl.
Lucky you.
Feeling, I know, 3 children, I couldn't handle it. So I left my children to my parents to be raised, and I entered the world's oldest profession. I was a lady of the night, known around town as Miss Katie. The poor, I was visited by the poor as well as the elite in town, and the elite would spill their secrets to me in the middle of the night, which actually led to me being involved in the 1904 Democratic Party election, because I knew much, and it was significant because I was a woman, but of the status of myself, it was also unique.
Monica Lewinsky type?
You can say so. Let's see, in 1906, I was arrested yet again. I was constantly in and out of jail, and the newspaper, I was popular because of it, but I was arrested during a prostitution sting that involved a doctor from an adjoining town as well as an ex-officer who was in my company. The doctor tried to bribe the arresting officer with $1,000, but he wouldn't take it, so we were carted off to jail. I was sentenced to leave town. They were tired of me. I caused too much trouble. I didn't think I caused that much trouble, but I did leave town, only for a few months before I returned. A few months later, at age 61, I was actually found beaten and unconscious in a street downtown because I had refused a gentleman's service into my home. Then in 1913, on June 20th, I passed away of uremic poisoning, which is kidney failure, at my niece's home on East Broadway. I am buried here today with my children, and one of the stipulations of my burial was that no monument in this section that I was buried in could be taller than mine, and as you can see, that has held true. But why I'm here today is because, being a devout Catholic, I gave much of my earnings back to my church, and most of my money went to build St. Joe Church as we know today on Broadway.
Wow.
So the church was made from illicit funds.
Yeah, no doubt.
Very interesting.
That's my story.
My name's Valley, I'm 26. I made this dress for this man who said he'd marry me. I had pneumonia at the time. So I go to church and I wait for him and he never shows. And I go outside the sets and sit and wait for him and hope he shows. Only to find that he decided to marry Molly instead. Her! Of all people, 30 years my senior. She's old. What do you want from her? So I sat out and cried. He cried. One minute I'm crying on the church, and next minute I'm stuck here in this dress that I made for him. That I made this statue for me that every time it rains, the rain comes through my eyes and cries like I am now, like I did that day. And I heard it was because of her. Molly made it. As if she was making fun of me or something. This is not my dress. Is my dress good enough? Why wasn't it? So Molly passes before he passes. That's why she's buried right next to me. And I heard that he also enjoyed the company of Miss Catherine Hoyt at times. But I sit here and I cry and I cry and I wake up here with broken arms and pneumonia. Why did you leave me? I couldn't go back home, so I just sat and waited and waited. And then I died. And now I'm here. I'm 26 years old and I'm forever stuck in a wedding dress I never got to use.
If you never married, you have the last name Amos.
Don't worry, I can save you.
That is a question I've gotten a lot. And I'm not sure why our last names are Amos and our dad and our mother's name is Peck. So that's how it goes. I'm not sure if we were adopted. Hence my sisters and I were so far apart. But he was 32, I was 26, and my sister was close to her 50s or 60s when they got married, and I don't know why. And now I'll be forever stuck in his wedding dress. Oh. I'm buried in it and everything. 26 when I passed away. Now I'm stuck here. Forever and ever. All I wanted to be was married.
Thank you, ma'am.